Today's episode of the Bill Simmons Podcast on the Ringer Podcast Network is brought to you by ZipRecruiter. I did not use ZipRecruiter to hire nephew Kyle, but if he had been on ZipRecruiter, I don't know.
I don't think it would have worked out.
You don't think it would have worked out?
No.
All right, so he's in the 20% of it wouldn't have worked out. They wouldn't have suggested him. He's been great, but 80% of employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within a day. A quality candidate that was probably better than nephew Kyle as a candidate. They're the best at distributing your job to the best boards, identifying the right people, and inviting them to apply. My listeners can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/BS. Meanwhile, SeatGeek is the best app for buying and selling tickets to sporting events, concerts, and more. For $20 off your first SeatGeek purchase on any game or sporting event for NBA, NHL, baseball, whatever, you know what to do. Use promo code BS. Buy your Red Sox playoff tickets right now. The Red Sox are a machine. My dad was sending orgasmic Red Sox tweets from his Twitter feed yesterday, Dr. Bill 1947. Download the SeatGeek app or go right to SeatGeek.com. Couple things to mention. Andre the Giant premiered last night on HBO, the documentary that we've been working on for a long time here at Ringer Films. It seemed like the response was great. I'm so glad people finally got to saw it. Wanted to tell you it's on HBO 2 tonight, I think at 10 o'clock. And also, more importantly, it's on HBO On Demand, HBO Go, HBO Now. However you get your HBO from a streaming standpoint, it is available. Really want you to see it. I'm really proud of this one. And it's been great that everybody was finally able to see it. It's been the worst part of this is the 4 to 5 months when you feel like it's ready to be seen and then you just kind of have to wait. So this was cool. And thanks to everybody who sent a nice email or a tweet about it. Appreciate it. Couple podcast things that are going on. I went on the Ringer MLB show yesterday to talk about Ohtani's MVP campaign, as well as the Red Sox and the future of the Red Sox this season with Michael Baumann and Ben Lindbergh. So that happened. I went on House of Carbs today. We did a special House of Carbs / Ringer NBA crossover that had a really fun gimmick. And I'm kind of, after the fact, realized I should have just taken it for the BS podcast and you guys could have enjoyed it. Now you have to go to House of Carbs. You have to listen to House. No, I'm just kidding. Go to House of Carbs. Check that out. What we did was we took the 16 NBA playoff cities and tried to figure out, ranking them from 16 to 1, who our bellies wanted to see in the NBA Finals. So that I'm going to every NBA Finals game this year. I'm probably going to bring House to at least a couple of them. And more importantly, I'm going to bring House's stomach and his mouth. And we were trying to figure out what would be the best case scenario for the finals, just for us to gain 7 pounds. So we played it out. One of the reasons we played it out was we figured the cities that weren't ranked as well would get pissed and mail us, oh, I can't believe you thought Cleveland sucks. Like they have the greatest Polish restaurant in downtown, whatever. Please mail us all of this. Mail it to us tweet at House. He's at House from DC on Twitter. He has the House of Carbs Instagram. Send this to us. We are belly sourcing. We did this partly because it was a completely passionate list that we did no research whatsoever for. We just followed our bellies and our brains, and we were prepared to have people yell at us, scold us, be angry at us. That's all fine. Just tell us where to eat. If we did something wrong, correct us. We're right here. We're not going to take it personally, because if we get a good meal out of it, great. So that happened. Check that out. It's actually a really, really fun podcast. It was one of my favorite ones I've done in a while. It's a good one. It's on House of Carbs. We also ran it on the Ringer NBA show today. The other thing is I am hosting the Ringer NBA show tonight. We're doing group chat. Chris Ryan is in Philadelphia, so I am taking over as the host tonight. We are going to tape after the Minnesota-Denver game tonight, which is going to end around 1 o'clock East Coast time, 10 o'clock Pacific time. We're taping a show with a bunch of our Ringer friends, and that will be up late night tonight, in time for your Thursday morning drive, your Thursday morning workout, your Thursday morning, I don't have a job, this is the highlight of my morning because I'm not working. Whatever you have, whatever floats your boat, it will be available. We're going to break down the Minnesota-Denver game, all the playoff seedings, all the ramifications, and go from there. So check that out. Be ready for that. Coming up, Mike Francesa, our old friend, the mystery man. He's going to talk about the Masters, the Super Bowl, the NBA Finals, MVP, all kinds of stuff, Yankees, Red Sox. And then after him, Alyssa Beresnack from The Ringer covers tech for us. Very good writer, has a lot of thoughts. We want to talk about this Facebook thing, which we have not talked about really on the podcast since it ballooned and mushroomed and blew up. It's something that I am really scared of and confused about. And I'm really worried that this is going to get worse, not better. So we're going to talk about that with Alyssa. But first, our friends from Pearl Jam. All right, as promised, the world's most interesting man. It's not the Dos Equis guy. It's Mike Francesa. He's been hibernating all of 2018. Nobody knows what he's up to. What are you up to, Mike Francesa?
I've been busy. I've been keeping busy. I haven't talked to you in a while, though. We haven't spoken in a while. I know you were down at I'm down at the Masters with some friends of mine, so who saw you down there. So did you enjoy your experience?
I enjoyed it. I loved it. It was probably the greatest 48 hours of my dad's life. It was everything he ever wanted.
You know what? I think I figure that your father's a weekend golfer and he loves golf. I can't imagine, if that's the case, anyone ever going to a place that would even approach what Augusta is like, because it is so special from that regard. It is so different and so unique. It's an amazing place where any golfer has to go once.
And it's one of those things you keep hearing how special it is. And if you haven't gone, you're like, all right, enough with Augusta. Fine. I'm sure it's great. But then when you go, it's like, oh my God, they take your phone, and the course is so much harder than I think anyone can imagine. It's
so much hillier.
So many hills, and
yes.
some of these tees where you really have to, like, threading a needle to hit it straight. It burned Spieth on the 18th hole on Sunday. It was just great. It gave me a whole new perspective on the course and how hard it is.
And it looks so pretty. It's almost fake. It looks almost fake. It's so pretty. And they do doll it up, which we know. They dye the water and they bring in azaleas, and that's fine. But they make it beautiful, and it looks beautiful. And it's a unique tournament, and it has a mystique. And that's why everyone always says, oh, put all of it on TV and change this. And these guys are smart enough and wealthy enough, but smart enough that they know exactly what they have. And the mystique is what makes it special, and that's why everybody treats it so special, because it is unique. It is a unique experience. It's a unique competition. And the other thing that is an enormous advantage, which no other golf tournament can deal with, is the people at home know the holes.
Yeah.
That course, everybody knows where the pin placement's going to be on Sunday and where you got to hit the ball and all that stuff if you watch it all the time. So it really gives the fan a tremendous ability to view it almost like a player, where he doesn't get that week to week.
You're like me. You appreciate true greatness. And I think Tiger at his peak was up there with Ali and Jordan and, some of the other guys.
Jack was on that same level.
And Jack from my
Nicklaus
lifetime
was on that same level. But you're right. That's true greatness. And Jack had it. Tiger has it. He won't ever have it again, but he had it. And you're right. That's true dominance and true greatness. Absolutely.
So as you're watching his career unfold now, people were so hopeful at the Masters. And even I was there Thursday, and, people were following him like it was out of a sports movie. Half the people on the course were just following him from hole to hole. We want this to happen so badly. And yet the history of following sports says, this is probably Ali post third Frazier fight. This is probably Jordan on the Wizards. This is probably Jack in the 80s, other than the 86 Masters. What are your hopes for Tiger at this point?
I think he can win again on the tour. I think he might be able to steal a major. But actually, he no longer is built for Augusta, because he cannot win where his driver is going to be a dominant club. He has to be able to hit his stinger. He has to be able to hit that 3-wood. He can't keep the driver in the fairway, nor can Phil. Phil doesn't have the club head speed nor the ability to be consistent enough with the driver to play those courses against these younger guys. These other guys are bigger, they're stronger, plus they hit it straighter.
Yeah.
So that's why those guys, even if they're playing well, it's going to be very hard for them to win against Dustin Johnson, or against a Spieth, or against so many of these guys, a Thomas, a Fowler, any of them, because these guys are longer, they're straighter, and that's the difference. Tiger and Phil both have the same malady. They can't keep their driver in the fairway,
right.
And that is a big problem. And Tiger on Sunday hit it straight. From everything he said he hit it great, and he didn't putt well that day. Well, usually he putts well, all right, and his wedge bothered him for a while, but it's been good since he came back. He no longer, though, can use the driver, and that's why I don't think Tiger will ever win at Augusta again. I think he could win a major. I think he could steal one if he really played great. I just don't think he'll win at Augusta.
Do you see greatness from Spieth?
I see not like Tiger dominance, but what Spieth has that's better than anybody else is he manages the game between his ears better than anybody out there. He is very, very good, and I'll tell you, Justin Thomas is close. They are very, very good, and they play it very smart. They handle course management, and Spieth owns Augusta, and that's why you saw him almost bring the entire tournament to its knees with a Sunday performance that was insane until the 18th. Absolutely insane. And the most amazing part about that was that he hit the ball in the fairway.
Yeah.
Every hole until 18 when he hit the tree, because Spieth usually sprays his driver. He's not great off the tee. That's not his strength. His strength is his amazing putting, although this year he's had a little bit of a problem with his short putts. A lot of people think he's got a little bit of a, not yips, but a little bit of a trick going on right there with his short putts. But the bottom line is he usually is not great off the tee. He was lights out on Sunday until the 18th when he hit the ball off the tree. And that obviously cost him any chance. I thought Fowler showed you something. He closed, but I think Fowler always plays better when he's chasing somebody and where people can forget him. When he has pressure on him, he doesn't seem to play well. He was in a perfect spot on Sunday to make a big run because no one was watching him. And then I don't know if he can lead and win, but I think he can come from behind and win, and I think he'll win soon. He's the next one that has to win a major. I think he will, and he's very popular. The amazing thing on Sunday to me was people didn't want Reed to win. I mean, even the people there, they were rooting more for Rory than they were rooting for Reed. People just don't like Reed.
I know. I was going to ask you, where does he rank for you against Ivan Lendl and Larry Holmes and some of the other big crowd just doesn't want the guy to win champions we've had?
When he came to 18, it was like no one wanted to cheer. It was amazing. I mean, they were rooting. We know they were rooting for Ricky. Yeah. We know they're rooting for Spieth. They love those guys. They were rooting more for Rory, and Rory had a really bad Sunday again. That's the second time there now because Rory can't putt. Bottom line is, we know Rory gets red hot, but he's not a great putter. And when he didn't make that eagle putt on 2, it changed his whole round. If he had made that eagle putt, he would have been off to the races. He didn't do it. His putter lets him down all the time, and that's a problem for Rory. That keeps Rory from being really great, is he's just not a good putter.
Who's your number one least likable, just from the fan standpoint, champion? Is it Lendl? I feel like Lendl kind of killed tennis in the mid-'80s to some degree.
Yeah, a little bit. He was boring. I think he was. I just don't like guys who are boring. That's all. I think you want guys with. That's why people love Mickelson. He's got personality. You can win with him. You can lose with him. Even when he crashes and burns, it's interesting. That's what you want. You want dominance, like you said, or true greatness. Otherwise, you want interest. You want something that's interesting. You want personality, and that's what you get from Mickelson. But it was good. It wasn't an unbelievable finish. It would have been if Spieth had continued along
he need one more
and
birdie.
Really finished 18 the same way. It would have been fun to watch. But give Reed credit. Reed, went out there and he stayed on the lead for 2 days. He took off every challenge, and he did a good job. You got to give him credit. I know people don't like him, and he's only before this done well at the Ryder Cup, but he played well. He really did.
What's interesting is he does have a personality. He doesn't fit the normal profile.
He's cocky.
Yeah,
he's cocky. But
usually we like guys like that.
I guess they don't like his private life, which I could care less about. I mean, stuff like that. I mean, I don't care about that. And I don't even care if he's cocky. What do I care? I don't mind if he wants to talk. Go ahead, talk. He produced. He won the Masters. Good for him.
Yeah, I hope he embraces it. Let's go backwards because I haven't talked to you in a couple months.
The Yankees, and the Yankees are off to now, let's be official. This is now an officially slow start. It was bad for a couple of days. They have some injuries. It's been brutally cold, as we know, but it's also been brutally cold in Boston. So let's not use that as an excuse, nor the injuries as an excuse. The Yankees got a lot of players playing lousy. Their bullpen's been terrible. It's supposed to be all world. Stanton has been striking out. I was at one game, he struck out 5 times. He also struck out 5 times the other day and left 9 men on base. Sanchez, no one's talking about, he's 2 for 36.
Yeah.
And their bullpen's been horrid. It's just a bad start, and the Red Sox are playing lights out, and Betts is back to being Betts. Last year he had a terrible year. 2 years ago he was great. He looks great again. I love Betts as a player. Love him. And right now, I love Benintendi too. What a beautiful swing. It's going to be a fun summer. I hope they get out to a lead and let the Yankees dig in and go chase them.
It's a very good Red Sox team, and Bogarts, who was looking like an MVP candidate, unfortunately got hurt, but he was hurt all last year. His wrist was messed up and he just couldn't get it going. And now he's back. And then they added JD Martinez. And now you have a full year of Devers, Benintendi in year 2. And the offense just feels top to bottom, just really good. And they have 3 starters and a closer.
Tonight. Is Price going to be good, or is Price going to be gaggable like he usually is? The Yankees usually own Price. Let's see what Price does. Price has been an absolute failure for the money he gets. Let's be honest.
He was good in the playoffs.
Show up.
Good in the playoffs, and he's had 2 really good starts. And I am bizarrely confident in Price. I can't explain it, but I agree with you. He needs to.
Yankees own him, though. This will be interesting to see because they do own him.
He needs to go out tonight and be like, actually, you don't own me. Watch this. I'm going to throw 7 innings. I think it's a really good Red Sox team. My questions with the Yankees were starting pitching, and just Stanton in a big city with attention on him. And the first time he goes 2 for 20, everybody writing about it all the time. How is he going to handle that? And it does look like it has the makings of a year from hell for them. Because in baseball,
I don't think that
it's
will
weird.
happen. I think they have. I think there's a couple of things. One, they have too much talent. 2, they have too much young talent. And here's what they have: they have the ability to go get any pitcher they want.
True.
They have so much in the farm system that people want. They have so many players in this farm system that people are drooling over. They can go get any pitcher they want in the pennant race.
They've given up some of them,
because
though.
They can't rely on CC Sabathia, and you not even know about Montgomery yet. Tanaka will be okay, although he's not durable. Severino's a real deal. He's a real pitcher. But they're going to need a pitcher. There's no question. But they can get him. They can get him later in the season, and they'll be okay. Listen, they have a lot. They have guys that aren't even here yet that could have big seasons. Like Laboratoris could still come up and have a big year this year. They have plenty of players. This team will be fine. I think it'll be a good summer. I think they'll run and they'll let the Red Sox get out fast, let the Yankees go chase them. Well, summer will be fun. I like summers like that, and the Yanks will be fine.
I'm really excited about this American League. There's ebbs and flows season to season with the leagues. And the American League, you have this Yankees-Red Sox thing, I think is just going to be great. I think both teams will be in the mid-90s.
Nothing better than Yankees-Red Sox.
But then on top of that, we have this Astros team that looks like they look like the 75 Big Red Machine, combined with awesome pitching and a team that could really win 120 games conceivably. And then on top of that, Ohtani, who is unlike any baseball player we've had in literally 100 years, and it almost pitched a perfect game on Sunday. Already has 3 homers, and we did a Ringer MLB Show podcast yesterday trying to figure out if he was the MVP this season, what would his stats have to look like? Like what if he went 15-6 and had 200 strikeouts and 170 innings, but also had 25 homers and 85 at bats and good splits? Like we've just never seen anything like this. Have you been excited by him?
Well, here's the thing that's funny about first about the Astros, their bullpen, which was absolutely comical last year, and they had to use starters to win it. I mean, they used starters and a brilliant performance by Verlander to win it. They didn't even touch their bullpen. They didn't even use their bullpen. I mean, it was so bad. So that would concern me. They have a great lineup, as we know, great lineup, and guys in their prime too, from that standpoint, and they will win their division easy. Number 2 about Ohtani, the Yankees coveted Ohtani. They were furious about the way he blew them off. Absolutely, they were incensed by it. They wanted him in the worst way. Now, after that, all you heard in spring training, and I was down in spring training, all you heard was what a bust he was. I mean, you heard guys saying, we thought he was the greatest, and all of a sudden Kershaw made him look bad. They are embarrassed by him. They should really start him in the minors. And then all of a sudden the season starts, and here he goes again. Now he's Babe Ruth again. So, I mean, here you heard about how great he was. Then you heard in spring training that he was embarrassing. He hadn't had a hit. Then the season starts. He's hit 3 home runs. He pitched great. So I can't wait till late May he comes here. I can't wait to see him. I like to reserve an opinion until I see a guy. So, I mean, I'd really like to see just how good he is. I hope he plays when he comes to New York. I hope he plays, and I hope he pitches, and I hope he plays so I can get a look at him. So I think it's great. You know, he's playing with the best player in baseball in Trout, who clearly is. So it's a fascinating thing. I mean, the Angels have to rely on some young pitching that we'll see if it can perform over a long period of time. But just having those two guys on one team could be so much fun. And the use of him is, you know, it's comical. I mean, how are you going to play him with his talents? We've never seen something like this. I mean, you know, so it's going to be fascinating to watch. It really is going to be very big. The one thing about him, though, he's buried. You know, you don't see him enough. You know, their games are too late. The East doesn't respond to it, so that's what's hurt Trout. Trout's almost an invisible player a lot of the time. Ohtani can be an invisible player, too, out there. It's hurt Kershaw, too. West Coast guys get hurt by not ever being part of the East Coast machine in baseball.
So I'm torn on this because I do think if he had gone to the Yankees, everything that's happening right now would be magnified by 20. It would really be all anyone's talking about.
He's about the worst place he could be for publicity. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, on the other hand, the Yankees get enough publicity anyway, and I think they're fun to watch and compelling enough as it is. And you look at him on the Angels, a team, I've been out here for 15 years. When I came out here, they won the World Series, and there was some Angels momentum for a couple of years, and then it died. And Trout's been here pretty much the whole decade, and he's been the best player in baseball by far, and nobody really cares. Like, he is not one of the biggest stars even in LA, much less the country. And one of the things that makes him special is also the thing when you go to games, he's so subtly good at so many things. It's almost like an Oscar Robertson type thing where he's just great, but he doesn't really jump off the field very much. Whereas like Ohtani, you know, you watch those highlights of the perfect game and it's just really compelling.
Well, he came in and played the Mets last year, and I took my son to 2 or 3 games because my youngest one, Harrison, is a huge Trout fan. He loves Trout. He's a Trout freak. So, and now he's already begging me for an Ohtani jersey. Okay, I know Ohtani now was wearing number 17. I know that already because he already asked me to look up the jersey for him. So, the point is, though, Trout put on a show at Citi Field that was just unbelievable. I mean, just amazing over a couple of days how good he was. It was just mind-boggling if you watched them with what he did. And the Angels, you know, they beat on the Mets a couple of games. They killed him on Sunday, and Trout, you know, hit 2 home runs and put on a show. And we know how good he is. And Trout will stay there unless somehow he can find a way to go to Phillies because that's where he wants to go. You know, he's a freak about going back to Philadelphia.
Right.
He ever wants, you know, that's the only place he'd ever go. But I think he'll stay put. But you're right, and I do think the Ohtani thing, if he was in the East, if he was not just on the Yankees, if he was, you know, on the Red Sox, if he was in the East where he could be part of the machine and you get to see him, it'd be a different thing. You just don't see the guys on the West Coast very rarely. And if you're bad on the West Coast and you're not on a dominant team, you could get lost. And as far as that goes, the exploits, no one gets to see the exploits. They don't see the highlights. They don't see the games live. So that really hurts. So from that standpoint, but he is such an unusual talent that it's getting so much play. He's actually here, I believe, at the top of my head, it's Memorial Day weekend he's here. And it'll get a tremendous amount of attention.
I think I'm old enough to remember when Valenzuela, Fernando Mania took off and things like that.
I remember when it was like that way. I can think of guys that it really was that way for. Fernando was 1. Vita Blue was 2. Mark Fidrich was 3.
Oh, yeah, Fidrich.
Those are ones where they came out of nowhere and they were just freakish. Absolutely. Fidrich was probably the most bizarre of all of them. But Vita Blue, I remember on an August day when the Yankees were terrible, Vita Blue filled Yankee Stadium. And John Ellis hit a bases-loaded double off from about 450 feet. Yankee Stadium going crazy because Vita Blue was almost considered to be unbeatable at the time.
Yeah.
So you remember, and Fernando Mania. So you're right. Those are 3 as an example of guys. They're usually pitchers that cause this because they can so dominate the game. But Ohtani now has both. He has his offense and that ability as a pitcher. So he could be a very rare, very unique. And I don't think it hurts in this day and age at all that he's not an American. I don't think that even matters anymore.
No, it doesn't. Guidry in 1978, I think, was like that. Pedro, even though he'd been around for a while, when he really ascended in 99 and 2000, I felt it became a thing. And when he was in your city, people were going out. And I think Ohtani...
You know, Harvey had a little of that when he first started, too, you know.
Yeah, a little bit.
He knocked the whole Dark Knight thing for a little while. It didn't last very long.
Right.
But he was about to build that a little bit. Guidry had as good a year. He's low-key. It was a very different Yankee team. It was a very good Yankee team, but and an ornery one. But he just was as good day in and day out as a pitcher can be. Guidry, as you said, in the 25-3 season.
Oh,
the same
Jesus,
thing.
we forgot it. We forgot about it.
It'll be interesting with Ohtani if he's going to play a lot on the other days is going to be the issue.
We forgot about Gooden in 85. I think that's a great example. That was really the first time I can remember, even it wasn't my team, just being like, I got to watch this guy pitch. He's on tonight, Wednesday night. He might strike out 20 guys. Yeah, we're ready. Hey, we're going to talk about the NBA playoffs. I want to take a quick break to talk about Gillette. I've been shaving since college. I haven't been shaving lately. I have this scraggly beard right now. But you know what's changed my life? The Gillette Fusion Ultra Sensitive Skin Shaving Gel. You know what else changed my life? The new Gillette 5 razor. 5-bladed razor lubrication strip. Great gliding performance. Less irritations, especially if you combine it with the Gillette Fusion Ultra Sensitive Skin Shaving Gel. You don't get neck zits. You just don't. Listen, I get the neck zits from the shaving. I don't get it when I have this combo. 15 soft microfins from the razor help create even and smooth shaving surface by gently stretching your skin. 360 Aqua Grip handle. Make sure you have total control over your razor even when it's all wet. I ordered it. I ordered the Gillette 5. Guess what? I got 4 refillable razors and free shipping, and then every 4th order free because I subscribed. And right now, you can get Gillette Performance delivered to your door. No more getting mad at yourself because you just got back from the grocery store and realized you forgot to buy blades. Subscribe today. Pick your favorite razor. Get every 4th order free. Visit Gillette online at GilletteOnDemand.com. Okay, it's about to get heated. NBA playoffs with Mike Francesa right now.
It's such a bizarre year. I was thinking about that because I was just thinking about the playoffs with the season ended today, and obviously I think of you when I think of the NBA. It's such a bizarre year. I'll start with these things. There are 3 teams that you're going to go in and say, how good are these teams? How good is Houston, number 1? How good is Philly, which is an amazing thing to even get out of your mouth, and how good is Utah? So I don't think there's any difference between being number 3 in the West and being number 8 at all. I think they're all equal. I think that I'll still pick Cleveland with the Boston injuries. I'll still pick Cleveland in the East because LeBron has had a year that if they don't give him the MVP, they shouldn't even name one. That's how good he's been. And he's played the most minutes. And he's been the best player by far. And he's dedicated himself this year. He hasn't missed a game. To me, give it to LeBron. But
wait a second.
How good is Houston?
Wait,
how good is Houston?
I can't let this LeBron thing pass.
You don't want to give him the MVP?
No, I'm not even voting for him in the top 2.
Oh, come on.
He's a DH.
He does everything.
No, he doesn't do everything. He doesn't play defense at all.
Yeah, wait. You're going to compare that? And what MVP candidate are you going to put out of your mouth that doesn't play? He plays less defense than LeBron James.
First of all, if
you can tell me Harden plays defense?
I think he tries a lot harder than LeBron. But
come on now. You don't really believe that.
I do this year. I think
you don't.
I think LeBron has been a DH this year.
LeBron's not the defensive player he once was. He has to rest on that end of the court, but he's still in his
He does more than rest.
Plays more defense than Harden ever played.
Yeah, Harden has tried harder defensively this year. No, I'm telling you, Harden has tried harder on defense.
Listen, the fact that you might even try to tell me he's even a little bit interested in defense.
He is.
I'm going to have a hard time
this year.
With the guy.
He's worked a lot harder on defense this year. But more importantly, he's the best player on a team that is by far the best team, and he's having a transcendent season.
Where would Cleveland be without LeBron James this year?
Where would the Rockets be without Harden?
They have other good players.
No, they have Chris Paul is their one really good player. They have a couple shooters.
Player, but they have a lot of sneaky players that can play.
So do the Cleveland.
You can't compare Harden to
Cleveland.
First of all, you're trying to tell me you compare Harden's game to LeBron James's game?
Oh, absolutely. This year. Yeah.
Oh, no. And when does Harden have to step up and do it when it's real?
But that's a different question. I'm just judging by the regular season.
That's part of LeBron's credibility is it's real.
It's a regular season award for 82 games.
Yeah, but this year, and listen, to me, he's still so much the best player, it's not even worth discussing.
First of all, well, you're right. He's probably the best offensive player when he wants to be, but Harden's having one of the great guard seasons in the history of the league.
Yeah, but you know what? They're meaningless statistics. They really are. Let's be honest. What do I care what Harden's doing in the fourth quarter of a game? They're winning 120-85.
First of all, he's scoring more points than LeBron is. He has, I think, the same number of assists, and LeBron's getting like I don't know, 3 more rebounds. And Harden's percentages are much better, and Harden's team is way better. And
you want to start the playoffs. Which player are you starting the playoffs with?
This season?
Yeah. You're telling me right now I let you draft players. You're drafting Harden over LeBron in the playoffs?
Well, who else is on my team? What kind of team am I drafting for?
I'm letting you draft players to start to win a championship this year. What's your first player out of the box?
But that's a different argument.
No, it's not. That's your MVP.
No, that's your playoff MVP.
He played all the games.
He played all the games, but he didn't play defense. Their team gave up 120 points a game.
His whole life. The man rebounds like a monster, and he does whatever that team needs him to do whenever. This year, listen, he should have been the MVP every year. In the last 8 years, he should have been the MVP every year. Every year.
I don't know about that.
He's that much better than everybody else.
Curry's 2015
so this year, when he had
crazy.
to dedicate himself to push this team, they should give it to him.
Well,
and I don't think they will, because I think they decide. I think they get to a point where they decide we're not giving LeBron any more regular season MVPs.
No, stop it. First of all, you act like he's carrying the Washington Generals. They have the second highest payroll in the entire league, and most of the guys were picked by him. Yeah, that's his fault. That should be part of his MVP campaign. He picked all these dudes.
Without him, they've been a terrible team this year.
Let me ask you something. Who do you think is responsible for them having to pay Tristan Thompson $19 million a year?
Wait a second.
Who do you think is responsible for that?
He was a good general manager.
But that's part of this.
I'm talking about a general manager.
It's the most valuable player. James Harden isn't like, hey, let's spend $20 million on my buddy who's represented by my other buddy.
I'm trying to save you something here. Here's what you're going to do. You're going to remember this, and then you're going to watch LeBron play, as you know, brilliantly in the playoffs, and Harden stink again in the playoffs, and then you're going to say, boy, I embarrassed myself with this.
Or I'm going to watch LeBron on basically being dealt a bad hand with this team that he helped build.
When have you ever seen him not play brilliantly in the playoffs?
How about the 4 times over the course of his career where he quit as the season went on?
You got to go back many. Listen,
I don't have to go back many times. You can't have an
argument with these 2 players. It's a silly argument. We can't waste our time with this one. Come on.
In 2010... He had a bad hand, and he folded in the last 2 games. That's a fact.
Are you going to try and tell me that you would start the playoffs with Harden rather than LeBron as a player? You're going to tell me you're a basketball man and you want to make that decision?
I don't. But that's not the criteria for the regular season.
Most valuable.
But that's not the criteria for the regular season MVP.
Well, listen, we all know they're not going to give it to him because they stopped giving it to him long ago. But this year, he actually deserved it. That's my point. So give it to Harden. Let's watch them all stink again. Watch them stink again and run away from the ball in the fourth quarter playoff game.
I just want to point out Harden won 66 games, and I don't even know if LeBron's going to get to 50. Harden's MVP case is unassailable.
It has ever been this year, and Golden State took the second half of the season off.
I would put Davis over LeBron too.
And Golden State took the second half of the season off.
Well, but they're not part of this conversation.
Forget this. We're not going to agree, but I'm trying to help you from being embarrassed when Harden stinks again in the playoffs.
I'm trying to help you with Harden.
Answer my other question. Is Houston real this year, or is this another D'Antoni Harden flameout?
When Harden is the unanimous MVP, I'm not the one who's going to be embarrassed with this one.
Yeah, yes, you are, because in the playoffs you're going to watch, and Harden's going to stink again. And just because they gave him, because they won the games during the regular season, it's a mindless exercise. Oh, if they won 65 or 66 games, so he gets the MVP, and then you're watching the playoffs as he does absolutely nothing. Okay?
Well,
but here's the thing. Answer the question.
Yes.
Is this another D'Antoni Harden flameout?
So the big question with this Rockets team is they look like they are by far the favorite right now to win the title. They have been rolling through teams. They've been up by 20 almost all the season. Golden State, Curry's out for round 1. Golden State doesn't look like they have the fire right now. Everything is lined up perfectly for Houston. The East is a mess. Philly is now looking like an actual potential finals team because Cleveland's such a mess. Boston's banged up.
So are you picking Houston to win the championship?
Oh, I think they're the prohibitive favorite, and I have no idea if they're actually going to win because, as you mentioned, we haven't seen Harden do it for 4 rounds. Chris Paul has had his own issues in the playoffs and seems to wear down as they go along. They're really going to have to manage his minutes. And D'Antoni has had issues in the playoffs.
Right, so that's why I asked you the question that I want you to answer. Is this the year for Houston, or is it another disappointment?
I think this is the year for Houston, and if it's not, then it's never going to happen.
It'll never be the year for Houston.
It'll never be the year for Houston unless it's this year.
Then the second question is Philly for real?
Philly is absolutely 100% for real. And here's why.
Are you talking about finals real?
Because of the conference, yeah. Cleveland's a mess. Nobody has ever.
I agree. Cleveland's only going to get to the finals because it's going to be on the back of the one guy who knows what to do in the playoffs. That's the only way. If he doesn't have a Herculean playoffs, they're not going to get to the finals.
The problem with LeBron right now, and he's been incredible offensively the last couple of months, he can put up 40, 10, and 10 in these games, and they still lose by 7.
I agree. Listen, they've had to go through the regular season and play this way. We know that, and it's been a terrible season. And from a GM standpoint, it's been a disaster. I totally agree with you on that. And it's made him have to work this hard, which he probably didn't want to do either. But he did. Here's the thing, though. You now believe now Boston would have been I actually
Boston
think
would have been
that
perfect.
if you gave me a full tilt Boston roster, this is the year they're going to beat LeBron.
Oh, no question.
I thought there was a chance. Now I don't think so.
No, not happening. The thing that
I agree.
Philly has.
Toronto, I still don't believe in. I don't think Toronto will ever. I think if they ever see LeBron, they won't know what to do with it. Okay, they will. He'll intimidate those guys off the floor.
Yeah,
that's the thing about Philly. Could Philly ever win a stare down with him in a long series?
Toronto's problem is LeBron owns them, and they had a chance 3 or 4 weeks ago.
Them mentally and physically.
Yeah,
owns them mentally and physically.
They don't have anyone who can guard him. And anybody they put out who actually has a chance to maybe slow him down a little bit is a zero offensively. And he can just do whatever he wants. And he knows it. And they know it.
He's got him mentally and physically owns them.
It's a problem. But Philly.
So the question is Philly, are they ready with their youth? The first go-round, are they going to be ready to do this the first go-round?
So the history of the NBA would say young guys in the playoffs, no.
Right.
The counter would be they have 2 of the best 15 guys in the league. Like I'm voting Simmons and Embiid for my all NBA teams. Simmons third team, Embiid second team.
Simmons is a terrific player.
So Simmons has gone up a level the last 6 weeks. The athleticism, the pace, his confidence is really crazy. And I thought I don't love to overreact to this stuff, but what he did in that Cleveland game, with the fact that he was just completely unafraid of LeBron and dunking and staring at LeBron after, like, that doesn't happen normally. Like, nobody in Toronto would do that.
That's why. I really believe he's the real deal. I agree with you. I think he's been incredibly impressive and hasn't gotten enough attention.
It's happening now. He is getting enough attention now. But the other thing is...
But I still think Cleveland is going to get out of the East because of what we just discussed. Toronto's never going to beat him. Boston's not equipped with the injuries. I think it's too much to ask of Philly, and there's nothing else. Forget the back half. Forget Washington, Miami, Indiana, Milwaukee. Forget it. So you're looking at LeBron, or you're telling me this young Philly's ready to first go around to go to the finals. I don't buy it. So I still think Cleveland's going to limp into the finals.
One thing about Philly that I think warrants mentioning, because I agree with you, very young, their best 2 players, Simmons has been in the league 1 year, Embiid hasn't even played 100 career games. But Bellinelli has been huge and a guy who has played in a lot of big games. Redick is a guy who has been in big games for years and years, dating back to Duke. They do have guys that they can rely on. Like when they go Bellinelli, Redick, Simmons, Embiid, and Saric, who's a badass who was playing in the EuroLeague when he was like 17, that's not a team that's going to be young and afraid. Like those guys are all kind of overconfident. Simmons and Embiid act like they're 2 of the best 5 players in the league. It's great. I don't think they're going to be afraid.
But they haven't been through this before.
True.
And it's to ask them to do it the first time is even against a Cleveland team that has the deficiencies that this team has. But you know what? Having guys that have even been through this, there'll be games where Smith will show up, Korver will show up. There'll be games when...
I don't know.
Yeah, there will, because J.R. Smith's had games like that. He will have games like that.
He's been awful this season.
He will have games like that. He'll have 6 threes in a half. He'll do those crazy things. Love, they need him, which
Yeah.
But Clarkson, Green, Hood, there's enough there that with his brilliance, and enough time in between games for him to recuperate, he can, I think, squeak his way to the final. Because of what we talked about. Philly's youth. I wouldn't say this about Philly next year.
Yeah.
And Toronto, forget it. Boston's injuries. I don't think there's anyone else there. I really don't.
I have 2 responses. One on Cleveland. A team that has been as poorly coached as they've been and as bad defensively as they've been. there's just no track record of them making the finals. It would have to be.
But they have the best player.
Well, that's what I mean. It would have to be the best 7-week stretch of LeBron's entire career. I think he would have to go.
Finals or to win it.
To get to the finals, I think he would have to go 40, 10, and 10 every night.
I don't know if they'll be. I don't think the first round. I don't think it'll be that tough where it's going to be that taxing.
Depends who they play. Like if they play Miami or they play Washington, I think they're in the 4 seed, but they could jump to 3 today. Indiana, I think, would be a little easier for them, but I think Miami.
I think Indiana would be where they want to play in the first round. I think that's where they go.
Going to Philly
want to be in the first round.
Going to Philly and the whole too young thing, we've seen this happen before. Like I think the 77 Blazers are a good example. I'm going back 40 years, but
but that team had. Let's be honest. That team was perfectly built. It was brilliantly coached. And it had a guy who was freakishly
and it had a transcendent player. I'm with you, but what if Simmons is transcendent?
The guy played like an all-world player. He wasn't, and there was no such thing as a big game. The man had won 2 championships in 80 games. In the rare moment the NBA saw him healthy, that year and the year after when he went 50-5 with him in the lineup before he got hurt again.
Yeah,
he was one of the all-time great players. So that's not a fair. And you had
hold on.
Lucas, you had Twardzik and Steele, you had Gross and Holland.
I know, but all those
that team was a good team.
But all those guys were really young, and none of them had any playoff
Walton
experience.
Was not young in terms he was green. The guy had played in the biggest games his whole life, so he was. There was no such thing as his being shrinking in a big game.
No, but everybody else on that team was young, and the theory going in was that they were too young.
Guy who knew how to play in big games.
Sure, he was like 25 though.
And the amazing thing that you might, I know you'll remember, fans might not remember, in that year, they're playing a best of 3 against the Bulls and Artis Gilmore. And Walton and Lucas had already fouled out of the game, and it was Lionel Hollins who hit 3 straight shots that actually propelled them to win Game 3 in a best-of-3 series. Otherwise, they don't get out of the first round. And they almost lost, but it was Lionel Hollins that made the shots that actually propelled them through that first round.
But young team that people wrote off, and then they made the finals. 86 Rockets.
They did, but they were a very gifted team, coached by Jack Ramsey.
That's my point. I think this Sixers team might be very gifted.
I don't think they were on the level of the Walt gang.
We don't know.
I think that's too much.
86 Rockets, another example. Remember that?
Who?
86 Rockets. It was like, the first time they made the playoffs, and then they beat the Lakers and made the finals, and nobody saw it coming.
Listen, it'll be interesting. I tell you something. It's going to be a very new dynamic for the NBA. The fact that we're even talking about the Sixers. Think about that. Talking about the Sixers. Talking about guys like Simmons and Embiid who've never been discussed in NBA in this way before.
Yeah.
And talking against them against LeBron James.
And the other one I was thinking was the 07 Cavs with young LeBron, where everybody's like, the Cavs, they're not going to do anything. And then all of a sudden they beat the Pistons and they're in the finals.
Now, how disappointing if Houston doesn't make the finals.
If they don't make the finals with the way it's set up for them right now, I just don't think they'll ever have a better chance than this. What team of the bottom 6 teams, what team do you fear? If I'm Houston?
From anything. What of the 6 teams past Houston and Golden State, which one of those teams? Portland's had a good year. Utah had a great finish. The guys who were on Oklahoma State. Obviously, we know who teams that have had a good year and a bad year. Is there any team in the bottom 6? And I don't think there's much difference between 3 and 6 in that group.
No.
Is there any team there that you fear?
I think Portland in the right matchup could be really dangerous because of the way they shoot threes. And I think Utah has, for whatever reason, been a horrible matchup for Golden State. And if Utah clinches the 3 seed and gets Golden State in round 2 and Curry's not healthy, and they know they can beat Golden State, they've beaten the crap out of them twice. That's a bad matchup for Golden State. I'm not saying they would lose, but that's dangerous. And Houston and Portland have had some wars this year. Portland loves playing Houston. They're like, you're going to shoot threes? Watch this. We'll shoot more. And that's just going to come down to basic math. And somebody like Lillard is really hard for them to guard. I think Portland weirdly matches up pretty well against Golden State and Houston. I don't know if they'll beat them, but those are probably my two watch out candidates.
Tremendous amount of pressure on D'Antoni, Harden, and Paul because they're carrying so much baggage into the playoffs this year.
Yeah, I agree. Hold on, we're going to take one more break. Hey, when you run your own business, you know that time equals money. It's not just an old saying, it's a fact. So why waste your valuable time dealing with issues that LegalZoom can help with? Over 2 million people have used LegalZoom to start their businesses. But LegalZoom's services don't end there. Running a business comes with taxes, contracts, hiring employees. It's a lot of fine print. Even after your business is set up, LegalZoom can still help. Lease agreements, changing tax laws, contract reviews. These are precisely the kinds of legal hurdles that take time and effort away from growing your business. With LegalZoom's business plan, you get legal advice for your business from vetted independent attorneys and tax professionals. Available in every state. You receive access to NDAs, lease agreements, and more. You don't have to worry about billable hours. LegalZoom isn't a law firm. You can count on upfront pricing and clarity. So invest your time and money in growing your business. Let LegalZoom help out with the legal stuff. And for special savings, be sure to enter promo code BS in the referral box. At checkout, that's promo code BS for special savings only at LegalZoom.com. That is LegalZoom.com. Before we get back to Mike, just wanted to mention again, the Andre the Giant documentary is available on HBO On Demand, HBO Go, HBO Now. Check it out. All right, back to Mike. Before we go,
yes,
I still can't believe you think LeBron's the MVP. I didn't realize you were in the bag for him.
This year.
Wow.
I think he definitely is this year.
The team won 50 games.
Is the year
Congratulations.
where he actually had to really expend a lot of energy. And listen, like I said, you could have given him the MVP every year. He's been the best player every single year, all these years. And they decided years ago not to give it to him anymore. This year, he had to participate, and that's why I give it to him.
Well,
but listen, I don't care if Harden gets it, and then Harden embarrasses himself again in the postseason, which is what we've watched every year. So let's see if we see it again. Like I said, there's a lot of baggage for Harden and for D'Antoni and Paul, who have never collectively done anything in the postseason.
I agree.
And I'll be fascinated to see if Golden State can scrap anything together. Their rotation is ridiculous because they have nothing on the second unit, and they continue to play that way, which never made any sense to me.
Yeah, I don't have a lot of high hopes for them.
So I mean, listen, they do have firepower. That's one thing.
I don't understand what's happened to Golden State this year. And I've talked to a bunch of people that are involved with that team. And I don't know if they totally understand it either. The lack of, they're acting like they've won 6 titles. And it's like they're the 98 Bulls limping to the finish line.
Bored.
All these guys are in their primes.
They're actually bored. You know that? I think some of their guys are bored already with winning. And that's a bad thing to do because it's very hard to keep winning. And one of the things you must do, I think, is very important. I think it's important whether you're talking about New England, whether you're talking about the Yankees in the late 90s. What the Yankees did every year was they energized the core by bringing a couple of guys in who were hungry, who had never won each year.
Yeah.
And I think that's very important to do because otherwise you don't want your core to get bored with winning ever. And teams can get bored with winning. And I think you got to energize your core by bringing guys in that at least are hungry and energize the rest of the group.
First of all, Red Auerbach created that idea, not the Yankees. You can't take credit for that. I'm sorry.
Well, the Yankees
have been
very good at it, too, through the years.
Yeah, it was a Red Auerbach idea. Just give Red Auerbach some credit.
As your Celtics in history, so let's be honest
Just
about that.
give Red Auerbach the right credit.
And their history predates the Celtics winning, so come on now.
Well, the Red Auerbach created, though, let's bring a guy in and try to win ring from him. And I
think that's true, and I think that's something that the Yankees did a lot, too. They brought guys in, veterans in. They'd bring a guy in, late in the season each year. They'd bring a guy in, from the other league. They bring a guy in and say, let's bring this guy into the core and let him be the guy who wins this year. And I think that's true. I think it's a great thing to do. And I think dynasties have done that. It's a very good thing to do.
I actually thought that
I think Golden State might be a little bored.
Well, I thought that was the flaw in what they did last summer. They tried to keep the team together, and they kept Livingston and they kept Iguodala for pretty big price tags. And it actually might have been a better idea to just bring in some new blood and some freshness, and maybe that would have invigorated them. I don't know. They don't have an alpha dog in that team who is obsessed with, I don't care if it's our third game in 4 nights. Like, we got to, come on, guys, let's go. They don't really have a guy like that. They have a bunch of really good players who don't seem to care if the team's not playing that well. They'll be like, oh, we'll be fine. We'll get it back. We're the Warriors. Like, that's really a dangerous game to play once you get in the playoffs. Let's go backwards.
Go ahead.
Last thing I want to talk about, just because we haven't talked since the Super Bowl. Brady throws for 505. Nick Foles has an out-of-body experience. Doug Peterson just has a watermelon-sized set of balls and one of the best coached offensive Super Bowls I can remember. And the Eagles steal one from the Pats, but they really didn't because they beat the Pats and they deserved to win. What was your takeaway? Is that the end of the Pats?
Not the end of the Pats. I think the Pats are going through some stuff, though. And I think it can get to a point where they give away or jettison too many good players at one time. I think it's a dangerous thing to do, to act like you don't need any of them. And I think you got to be careful of that. And I think they're running that risk. But that he would not punt, that he would not turn the ball over in the first 55 minutes, and that his quarterback would throw for 500 yards and he would lose, I don't think he would think that it was humanly possible.
Yeah.
I think Philly understood from the beginning that they couldn't stop them. They knew they couldn't stop them. They played the game as if they couldn't stop them, and they had a mentality which you have to give the Eagle coaching staff and Brain Trust tremendous credit for. They knew what they had to do to win the game, and I fervently believe that if Brady had not turned the ball over when he did, the Pats would have won the game. I have not a doubt. I have not a scintilla of doubt in my mind that would have happened. But, that's the way it goes. They made the play they had to make. It was a bizarre game in terms of how ineffective the defenses were. And the thing that's insane, though, about that game is what Belichick did in his secondary and the risks he took to make a point, to the point where they were still coaching those other kids, my understanding, very late in the week to learn the coverages, and took out a player who was a mainstay for exactly what reason I still don't know. So I find the whole thing extremely puzzling. It's almost like biting off your nose to spite your face. And I still to this moment don't understand that, but I think if you dwell on that, you take away from the Eagles' victory. And I think, as you said, very rightly so, as a Pat fan, they earned it. They did earn it. They beat them at their offensive best. They beat them at their offensive game. But I still don't understand the deployment. And let's be honest, the people that Belichick put in to replace what was a mainstay of his defense got torched in that game.
Yeah. Butler wasn't great this year, but he certainly was better than the guys that were in there.
Absolutely. Plus, they didn't seem like they knew what they were playing either. So it was such a... It's almost like it's an unsolved mystery, but there seem to be a lot of unsolved mysteries around that team right now, going back all the way back to the quarterback situation and the trade with the Niners.
Yeah.
And too many of those lead you down the wrong path.
The more I look back at that game and get pissed off about it, the thing that makes me the maddest is that they let the Eagles have that long fourth quarter drive, and that they didn't turn it into a we're just going to blitz you, and if you score, at least we get the ball back. The worst possible thing, and the only thing that could have lost the game for them, was exactly what happened. This 8.5 minute drive where now Brady gets the ball back with 2:22 left, and I'm with you. I thought he was going to win the game. It turned out that was probably one of 3 plays in his career that I think when he's 75 and he's living in Costa Rica with his still beautiful wife, he'll be thinking about 3 plays over the course of his career. One was 2006, Indianapolis, the 3rd and 3, where him and Troy Brown, all he had to do was complete a 3rd and 3 to Troy Brown, and they win the Super Bowl that year, and it didn't happen. The Welker pass in the second Giants game, which I thought he overthrew Welker. I was there. I think that would have been an impossible catch for Welker. But the pass wasn't there. And then the third play was him getting stripped on that thing, which I don't even think was his fault. He had a guy who was wide open 25 yards down the field. His eyes lit up. He was going to throw it, and he didn't realize that his whole right side of the line had collapsed, and just guy makes an awesome play, gets his hand on the ball. And there was really no way to avoid it, but I'm sure Brady is going to spend the whole offseason going, what could I have done differently? What should I have done? Should I have known this was going to happen? I think it was just a chain of events. He saw this guy, his eyes got wide, and in that split second, he kind of forgot about the right side of the line, and that guy got in, and that was the entire game. They would have had the ball in the 50.
And I'm sure Belichick's been a lot of it wondering about what happened to his defense, but if he wants to wonder, he's got to look in the mirror and wonder exactly why he pulled the plug on a guy who was number 2 in the team in terms of plays that were played this year. And then he doesn't see the field. I just don't understand it. It's a puzzle, I said.
But with that said, though,
again, it was a fun game, and Foles performed brilliantly. I mean, let's be honest, they did.
With that said, the front seven on the Patriots was appallingly bad and probably did not deserve to be the front seven on a Super Bowl team.
It was atrocious.
Awful
Absolutely
defense.
Atrocious.
Hats off to the Eagles. Do you think, I mean, your favorite team is in their division. Do you feel like this is the start of a nice little 4-year run, a little along the lines of like what the Seahawks had with Legion of Boom?
No.
And You think this is a one and done?
No, I don't feel that at all. Listen, I think football, I think, has become for most teams incredibly yitty. Incredibly idiot. But I think that gap can be closed very quickly. I think they'll be competitive. I think there will be a threat. I do think you're going to see some changing of the guard, and I think things are going to break enormously quickly for the Niners, who are going to make a very quick leap. And the Rams and the Niners are going to be very big in the NFL in the next 5 years.
Last question. I know you have opinions on this. I mean, hopefully your opinion hasn't been too devalued during this podcast with your LeBron MVP campaign, but we're going to try to move on.
I mean,
listen.
How can you even argue Harden and LeBron?
Congratulations. He won 50 games. Let's give him the MVP.
That's almost comical.
Oh, my Lord. Let's give it to him.
Shame on you. You know better than that. I don't want to see you exposed in the playoffs when Harden does his usual exit stage left.
Are you with CAA or Clutch? I can't remember. Which is your agency? Are you with the Rich Paul and LeBron, his agency?
No. I have nothing to do with LeBron. Okay. And LeBron, no, he doesn't have any. Listen, I've never been with an agency. I just have a new business relationship with CAA, but they're not LeBron, no. And I just have a new relationship with them that I'm working on, but that has nothing to do with LeBron being the MVP. I think he should have been an MVP every year in the last 10 years, to be honest with you.
All right, this is a very important question. Rank the quarterbacks for me. Your team's picking second. The team that you've made fun of the most over the years on your show, the New York Jets, is picking third. Cleveland Browns, the least successful.
I'm ranking them for me,
franchise.
Not the way I think they're going to be picked.
No, do both. I want ranking you for you, and then do for the pick.
I'm not ready to do that. As far as my preference, I have said all along, and anyone who listens to my show knows this, that I said for 2 years that when Donald came out, he would be the number one pick in the draft. I am a big Donald fan. He was always my number one quarterback of the group. Allen's transition quickly. I know he has a great arm. I think it's very close with the other two quarterbacks. So I think it's Donald 1, and I think it's very close with Rosen and Allen. And to me, the absolute wild card, and I think it's a wild card in terms of every facet of the game, on the field and off the field, is obviously the Oklahoma quarterback. And what he does is really going to make someone look very good or very bad. He's going to be a high draft pick, and I think he's one of those quarterbacks that can either launch you on a very good career or finish you as an executive. He has got that, I think, that real risk reward, and could either be good or really bad as a performer and as a person. So I think he is the real X factor. And I think he's also a hard kid to really make a decision on. There are people I know who love him and people I know who can't stand him. Same thing with Allen. Some people think Allen's just incredibly inaccurate, and some people think he's going to be wonderful. I think Rosen is a solid guy. I don't love him. The only quarterback of the four that I personally think is one that is can't miss is Sam Darnold. I think Darnold will be a big-time quarterback. He's the only one that, if I was at the top, the only one I would be supremely confident about.
So let's say Sam Darnold goes 1. Who do you want the Giants to take it to?
I think the Giants will not take a quarterback at 2. I think they will try to trade out of the pick, and I think they would be very content if they wound up with the guard, without any question. I think there's 3 players who are very high on the board, and I'll tell you, I think they'd be very happy to trade down. I know they love Donald. I've heard that from people I trust. But then I think Cleveland's going to take Donald. I think everyone thinks Cleveland's going to take Donald. It'll be a shock if they don't. Then I think the Giants won't take the quarterback. I think they could trade down, although I don't ever predict that someone will trade down. If they pick in that spot, I think it'll be very difficult for them to justify that they're going to take a guard number 2. That's why I think they'd like to trade down. And then I think you're looking at them making a decision between the pass rusher and the running back. I don't like to take running backs that high. I don't believe in running backs at that level. I don't really. I prefer to take a pass rusher at that level, although he doesn't fit the system exactly the way the Giants, I'm hearing, want to play it. So that makes that a little tricky. I don't think the Giants will take a quarterback there. I really don't, unless it's Donald. So, and I do think they could trade out of it. The Jets will definitely take a quarterback, and I'm telling you right now, sitting here right this minute, I do not know who the Jets are drafting. I know a lot of people, I've heard people say they guarantee 2 different players that the Jets are drafting. I personally don't know who the Jets are drafting at 3, I admit that. And I think the other quarterbacks, to me, are very close. Very close. I have some things I like about them, some things I don't love about them. I'm a Donald guy. I have been from the beginning. I've never wavered on that. I would take him, and I think he's the best of the group by a solid margin. And I have a couple of players that I love. I think there's a couple of running backs who are close to Barkley. I think there are 3 really good running backs in this draft. The other 2 are a lot closer to Barkley than people think. And I also think there's a couple of wonderful players in this draft, including a tight end who will dominate the game the way your tight end has dominated in New England. I think there's another one coming.
Who is
in this
it?
Draft.
You're not going to tell us?
You got to find him. You have to find him.
I didn't have to do homework.
His name is Gesicki.
Okay.
He's a wonderful player.
Let me ask you this.
Wonderful player.
You think the Giants can trade down, but if you actually go through the top 10, the only logical trade down partner is the Broncos at 5. So do you think the Giants could flip picks with the Broncos and get something? The Broncos will move up? Okay.
Absolutely. I think Elway's fixated on another quarterback. I think that could definitely happen, and I think the Giants would be very happy to go to 5 and take the guard and be thrilled with the player. I think they would be very, very happy with that, and some more premium picks. I think they'd be very happy with that.
What if, can I ask you, I have short questions. If Tampa calls and offers you Jameis for number 2, do you do it?
If Tampa called and offered me
Jameis for the 2nd pick, Jameis Winston.
I wouldn't do it. If I'm the Giants?
Yeah. No?
And I wouldn't do that right now, no.
What if they offered Jameis in the 7 for Giants number 2 and the Giants 2nd and 3rd picks?
See, I think the Giants are very content to play with Eli for a couple of more years, so I don't think that's going to happen. I don't see that. I don't see the Giants doing that right now.
So you think they want to stash a young dude to put under Eli?
I think the Giants have decided they want to be. I don't think the Beckham thing was ever real that they were going to trade him. I don't think it was ever that far along like people were making it that they were going to trade him.
Yeah.
I think the Giants feel they can be competitive this year. I think they feel they can rebuild this offensive line and be competitive this year.
Especially if they go from 2 to 5 and pick up some other stuff. I thought it was funny.
And absolutely, I think they can be, and I think they realize I think they still believe they can get years out of Eli. I still think Eli can play at a high level for a couple of more years. I firmly believe that. But I still, if Donald was available, too, if Cleveland blinks and I'm the Giants, if it's me, I am absolutely 100% changing my face about it completely and taking Donald at 2.
So if Cleveland takes Josh Allen 1, which has been heavily rumored.
I'm taking Donald at 2 if I'm the Giants. And I think the Giants would.
Okay.
But I don't think that will happen. I think Donald will go to Cleveland on on the first pick. But remember, I know everyone thinks the Browns are going to do something screwy. And listen, if the Browns took another quarterback, they have to prove it's screwy. They could be right and we could be wrong about a quarterback. That's happened many times in history. But I feel that the quarterback that I feel confident with going forward for the next decade is Donald myself. I've been a big I've been behind him from the beginning. I think he's going to be the real deal, and that's the quarterback I want. If he's on the board at 2, I want the Giants to take him.
What is your success failure rate over the years when you go all in with a quarterback from college? Are you like 75%, 80?
No, I've been pretty good, as a matter of fact. I usually don't like a lot of quarterbacks. You know, I'll tell you something. I got in arguments with guys. I don't want to say who, but I had arguments with guys who liked RG3 better than Luck.
Ooh.
And I thought Luck was the best quarterback to come out in 10 years. I think Luck can be one of the great players of all time. I have been on record as that. I think and now I'm very worried about his career now.
Me too.
And I don't know if he's even a little bit healthy right now.
Yeah.
I haven't seen even a signal that he's a little bit healthy. But I think he was on the verge of being one of the great players of all time.
Before we go, people miss you. Where are you? What's going on? Can you tell us anything?
I can't yet, but I would say we're moving in the right direction. You know, some things just take a little while for them to come together, but we're working on it. How about you? Anything new?
Summer? September? What are you thinking?
No,
before
I'd
football?
Say before. I'd say before.
Before the summer or before football?
I'd say before the summer solstice, absolutely.
Oh, wow.
Absolutely.
This is soon.
I'd say before. I'd actually say maybe before. I'd say well before that.
Well, you'll have something to talk about when Stanton is hitting 195 with 130 strikeouts at the end of May. There's some fodder.
I love how you love to hate. That's what I love. I love. See, you get one game under your belt in Boston.
Yeah.
You get one
feeling
game
good.
where everything
good.
goes right, where Benintendi gets a couple of line drives and Betts puts one up in the porch, and everybody's happy with the world. You got to go through Price tonight, and Price sees a Yankee uniform, and usually, he melts on the mound.
I'm a little
like
concerned.
The Wicked Witch. It usually does.
I'm a little concerned. Well, you say I love to hate. You completely crapped on James Harden, who had one of the greatest guard seasons of all time and won 66 games.
Can I see Harden do it when it counts one time before we put him on the level with LeBron James?
I think that's a very fair request. Unfortunately, it has nothing to do with the regular season.
Still, listen, if you're just going to base it on who wins the most games, well, then you have the reward hands down. If you're going to tell me what guy, if I subtract them, the team would have been absolutely destroyed or could not have performed anywhere near at the same level, then it's LeBron.
Or Anthony Davis.
Excuse me?
Anthony Davis.
Very close. It would have been number 2 for me.
He's rising up my all-time ladder.
The problem is the limitations now on a guy who plays that position are so extreme now in basketball that they're almost unfair.
Yeah.
It can be minimized, and it's almost unfair that the game has gone to such lengths. I mean, look at how Villanova played. And, I loved Villanova. I thought they were going to win. I picked them to win. I'm biased, too, I have to admit. I'm close to the coach. But I knew I hadn't seen a team that could shoot the three at so many different positions, including their bigs, that they were going to be impossible to defend, and no one even came close to defending them in the tournament. Not even close. And they basically copied the way Golden State played. They had 6 guys who could all shoot threes.
It was cool.
They passed the ball well, and they had 6 guys. And even their guys, like Pascal and Spellman, could step out and shoot threes.
Yeah, Loyola Chicago even had the way less talented version of that same kind of offense, too.
Yeah, they did until they couldn't play Wagner. They couldn't play him.
Yeah.
And Wagner's going to have a good NBA career. He's going to be a good NBA player.
Oh, wow. A Wagner recommendation.
Yes, because he's going to be able to step out and make a 3, and he's going to be a very useful player in the pros. He absolutely will.
It was great to talk to you. I will hopefully talk to you soon. Good luck with whatever the new mystery venture is. Thank you.
Be well.
Okay, bye-bye. All right, we're going to talk to Alyssa Beresnack about Facebook and everything going on there. But first, the U.S. Postal Service is an important tool for any business, reaching every household every day. Stamps.com, our friends, brings all the amazing service of the U.S. Postal Service right to your fingertips. Buy and print official U.S. postage with your own computer and printer. Stamps.com even sends you a digital scale that automatically calculates exact postage, and they have postage discounts you can't get at the post office. It's the U.S. Postal Service right at your fingertips. Any letter, any package, any class of mail, and you're in control of all of it. Very important right now with Father's Day and Mother's Day coming up. Although Mother's Day is first, so I should have said that in reverse. But you know why I love Stamps.com? I like handing my outgoing mail and packages right to my mail lady, because it's a mail lady on my street. Why would you ever want to get in your car to go mail something? Just hand it off to someone. Be like me. Use this code BS, my initials, for this special offer. You get up to $55 free postage. You get a digital scale. You get a 4-week trial. All you have to do is go to Stamps.com, click on the microphone at the top of the homepage, type in BS, Stamps.com, enter BS, sign up today. And one more thing before we get to Alyssa. Again, I'm hosting the Ringer NBA show tonight. Late night. I might be half asleep. Might have to get a coffee around 6 o'clock. But we're coming in right after all the playoff seedings are set. Me and a bunch of our Ringer friends, we're just banging it out, trying to figure out who's favored, what's going to happen, all that stuff. It will be available for the Night Owls tonight. It will be available for everybody tomorrow morning. Check that out. Here we go. Here's Alyssa. All right. We wanted to talk a little bit about this Facebook. I guess the best word would be fiasco with the Ringer's Alyssa Beresnack. You've been following this. You've been watching the hearings. You've been captivated by his electric personality as he gives his testimonies. Can you try to sum this whole thing up in less than a minute, what this means to the future of America? That's a tough question, but I'm giving it to you anyway.
Sure. I think the most concerning thing about this event was it demonstrated how little our lawmakers know and they're the ones in charge of regulating Facebook. So the lawmakers know something is wrong. They just don't know what Facebook is. So it's going to take a really long time for them to figure that out in order to make rules to regulate Facebook. And in the meantime, Zuckerberg is going to be self-regulating, and that might be bad for everyone who uses the platform.
And the history of America is basically when you build something that's gigantic and it becomes a monopoly and the rules don't really apply, we usually fix this. And for the last 14 years, we haven't come close to trying to fix this. And now belatedly, they're trying to fix this.
Yeah, like even like the auto industry. It's like they started making cars and then they're like, oh, we need a seatbelt because people are flying out of the windshields.
Yep.
But that's just such an easy, visceral demonstration of a regulation. And in this case, we would be like really having to pick through the algorithms, which are super complicated. And, you know, if you're a 70-year-old congressman, you might not really know what that entails.
Right. And I've seen this pointed out on Twitter, but it is funny for them to be blaming Zuckerberg for not knowing a lot of this stuff when a lot of the people who decide our laws don't read the laws and don't do any of the homework. I mean, it's basically the same situation. But I look backwards and I think, you know, Obama was in office for 8 years. And during those 8 years, Facebook ballooned into this content monolith. And by the time Obama left office in 2016, the Facebook news feed was the number one way to distribute news, and the one that all these different media outlets were looking at is how can we get on the Facebook algorithm. People were doing advertising on there. Obviously, something was happening politically, and it just did not seem to be on the radar for the entire Obama administration. Should he take more slack for his role or lack of a role in this whole thing?
I mean, that's such a great point. This has been an old problem. And I joined Facebook in 2006, and I've been watching since I was basically 17 years old, that this product has manipulated my life
right.
in many different ways. Like, it's a very personal relationship with this platform. They were having a great time because there wasn't any threat of Trump, you know? Like, no one really saw this insane, insidious, like, fake news storm coming on. And Obama, you know, getting back to Cambridge Analytica scandal, which is kind of what set off this whole testimony in the first place. Cambridge Analytica was able to get access to millions of users' data under old Facebook policies. Obama used similar manipulative tactics in advertising to his constituents too, when he was running for president.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily like, the Trump administration came along and decided to like exploit the internet for bad. It's more like we've always been doing this, but once it threw our world into chaos, that's when we started to care.
Yeah, I mean, if you Google Obama 2008 Facebook, the first few things that come up are about, and I think people forget this now, like U.S. News 2008. Barack Obama and the Facebook election. And the subhead is the president-elect was far ahead online, the two writers write. And it talks about how this was the first time somebody had run for president and used Facebook, and MySpace was still around to a lesser degree. But one of his key strategists, who was 24 at the time, Chris Hughes, was a Facebook co-founder. And it says, it was Hughes who masterminded the Obama campaign's highly effective web blitzkrieg, everything from social networking sites to podcasting and mobile messaging. It's really strange to me that he didn't also see the potential, you know, obviously he saw the good in it and he exploited it to his benefit, but that he also, at no point during those 8 years, that he didn't see, oh, wait, if this was in the wrong hands, this could be really bad. And I really think he should take more shit for that.
Yeah, I mean, right. Obama's kind of an optimist too. And his whole administration, he was embracing Silicon Valley like crazy. Like, so many people who worked in tech came to Washington and worked for him. And that was part of his strategy. He was able to recruit a lot of talent. So he was close with them for a reason. It's true. Like, both him and Mark Zuckerberg were just like insane optimists, quote unquote. And they just weren't able to see the future coming.
By the way, optimists about the internet, which is the most pessimistic place we have and that we've ever created. It's just kind of funny.
Truly, it's hard for me to understand as someone who spends